Leisa, Louise is right. I mean, wouldn't it have been so much better on Saturday morning or Saturday lunchtime if we'd whacked on Sky and you had Prime Minister Albanese saying, well, I had a call from the US President overnight. He told me what he was going to do in Iran. He brought us into the whole operation. I, as an Australian, would have felt much better about it.
But Steve, you would have watched that on the weekend, and I was watching the clock tick by and thinking, where is our Prime Minister? He just wasn't out there saying anything. The fact that it was more than 24 hours before we heard from him says enough in itself. You know, silence is very loud on days like that. And Louise is right. He absolutely has done nothing to ingratiate himself to the US President at all. And at this point, he appears on the world stage to be completely irrelevant. And the one thing Albanese doesn't like is to be ridiculed. Every time he is asked some tough questions, and we saw that on the weekend, he seems to take it as some sort of personal insult. And we've watched this over his last term as well. He very much manages those press conferences. If you read Greg Sheridan this morning, he was saying that basically there's a rule that you can ask a question, but there are no follow-up questions. He doesn't seem to want to be held to scrutiny. And the fact today that he was saying that, and I'll quote you, we've agreed, him and Trump, or him and the White House, that we will have a meeting and that will take place at a time that is convenient to both of us. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm pretty convinced no one in the White House is sitting around wondering about Anthony Albanese's diary.
No, and Louise, he seems to have a glass jaw. I mean, that chat he had today with Kieran Gilbert, I mean, Kieran put the strong questions to him, but he kept sort of saying, oh, well, there's some people in the media who, you know, no matter what I do, they're not going to like what I do, and, you know, they're out of touch. I mean, why is he so... I don't know what the word is. Why is he so worried about what people say about him? If he's like that, he shouldn't be in the job.
We compare him to someone like Trump, who is a bona fide world leader, I would argue, who is decisive. He makes up his mind, he takes action, it's effective, and he stands by the action. He doesn't equivocate or sort of panic that maybe someone may not like him or he'll be dropped off someone's Christmas card list or something like that. He really shows what it's like to have an iron will and actually put your country's interests first. And we haven't seen that from Mr Albanese when it comes to our relationship with the US.
Leisa, just on the Australians that are in Iran and Israel, this question often comes up when you have a global conflict that breaks out suddenly and people can't get out. My old mate Ross Greenwood from Sky Business News is stuck in Doha tonight. He's sitting there waiting for another 9 hours to get a flight for some reason to Adelaide, but he can't get out either because of the problems. We've got 3,000 people in Iran who want to come back to Australia and 1,000 in Israel. How much should it be the job of the government to get you home if you've gone there by choice?
Well, you're right, and we hear this even when there's a natural disaster. There's always that pressure on the government to try to get people back. And look, I'm sure if you were in that situation, it's extremely frustrating that you're at the other end of the line to some bureaucrat who isn't necessarily being helpful. What I find interesting about this is within the first sort of 24 to 48 hours of the Middle East going basically to hell in a handbag, if you want to have a really blunt description of it. There were Australians that I know of who were in Israel, and they managed to use the private sector to get out of Israel. Now, if the private sector can transition people out of Israel, what is the Australian government doing? I understand it's dangerous, I understand the risk, I understand there's a lot of people, but the private sector were able to somehow reach in there and extract these Australians. What is our government doing?
Yeah, I know people who got out that way, but I mean, somehow they either got on a bus or they got their own private transport. They went over the border into Jordan. They managed, while Jordan airspace was open, to get on a plane and get to somewhere like Doha or to get back to Australia. You're right. I mean, people did get out. Let's talk about Vladimir Putin. He's weighed in on all of this. The Russian president, he's met with Iran's foreign minister. That happened yesterday following President Trump's announcement of the bombing of the facilities. Putin condemned the attacks on Iran, but stopped short of offering full support to its ally. Now, Louise, what do you make of that? I think that says something about the behind-the-scenes relationship between Trump and Putin that is not often talked about.
Yes, I wondered that myself, Steve, because Putin stopped short of actually offering troops on the ground or any kind of military action to support Iran, didn't he? Which I thought was very interesting. Although obviously Russia and Iran are sort of partners in destabilising the Middle East, it was interesting that he kept his powder dry in that way, and no doubt that they had a few shots of vodka while they were having a chat, and it's all about the optics as well. So Trump knows that these two have met and had a meeting and have done something to sort of solidify their relationship. But I also found it quite ironic that Putin would say Trump's action would cause sort of a nuclear war or nuclear disaster, when this is a man who obviously invaded the Ukraine, who arms Iran and, makes threats about nuclear weapons at any opportunity against the West. So I did find his comments a bit hypocritical, to say the least. But yeah, there's no doubt his relationship with Iran is strong, but for whatever reason, as you say, there's obviously some back-channeling going on with Trump as well.
Louise, Leisa, great to catch up with you. Thank you very much. We'll catch you next week.